first, let's take a look here at the story of the day. Let me just adjust my monitor. Let me just bring up here the key one, the one I've been talking about here. Is Alex Jones a gigantic hypocrite? And I kind of think that he is. Now, this particular article popped up here today on InfoWars website saying the attack on InfoWars is deep state cyber warfare. This is real election meddling, obviously written by Paul Joseph Watson, who is the number one arbiter of bullshit, I think, outside of Alex Jones on there. And of course, it says here that the coordinated corporate attack on InfoWars this week represents nothing less than election meddling and cyber warfare. It doesn't, but okay. In addition to being banned on almost every major social media network, InfoWars servers are now under attack with frivolous claims that we distribute porn being made in an attempt to have InfoWars website completely wiped off the web. Now, I don't agree with any of that. If someone's doing that, stop it. That's not doing well, but that, honestly, I predicted it the other day. It says here that the following platforms have all banned InfoWars over the past 3 days. And not a single case did any of them point to a specific video, statement, or piece of content that violated their rules. Facebook, YouTube, Apple, Google Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, Audio Boom, Pinterest, MailChimp, Stitcher, Discuss, Sprout Social, and LinkedIn. An electronic lynch mob pressured all these companies to cave to partisan outrage, and they gleefully complied. Here's the thing with that, though, guys. I don't fully buy his bullshit. I'm sorry, I don't buy his bullshit. I don't want Alex Jones removed off of these platforms, but that is not to say that I agree with the content he puts out, that I support the content he puts out, and that some of it is very, 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 very suspicious in regards of where it goes in terms of the law. The First Amendment is not absolute as much as I'd like it to be, because when you start calling on defamation and slander and those sort of things, it really does start skirting the edge of people's terms of service, right? This is what they've been getting him on, these terms of services. Now, in the case of YouTube is already kind of whittling away at Alex Jones anyway. Some of the content he had said had been called into question. They had removed a few of the videos. They suspended him from streaming for 90 days. He then started circumventing that ban by going to multiple other channels to stream InfoWars. They decided that that was a terms of service violation, and that's one of the reasons why they pulled him. That's one of the reasons why they did it. Now, again, this whole thing is not just an instantaneous, in the minute type move. This is very much a build up to it, and it's a problem. But here's why I want to bring up the hypocrite thing, because, and this is important. It's the fact that even on InfoWars' own website, it admits that it is not censorship if you violate the rules and your post is deleted. Dun, 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 right? So here we've got Alex Jones running around the internet for the last couple of days claiming censorship, nonstop censorship, but yet his own website holds terms of services that are roughly identical to the websites that pulled him. So live by the sword, die by the sword, am I right? It's hard. It's a hard one to defend, especially if you are a right-leaning individual who criticized James Gunn and was okay with him being fired, but you're against Alex Jones being pulled from the platform. See, this is where we get into a much larger and albeit more difficult discussion, because it's a much more difficult discussion when you start looking at the concept of a private corporation, what can they do, and whether or not you need government oversight, because this is where we're basically finding ourselves. Now, the article does go on here to say that conspiracy theorist Alex Jones has responded to social media platforms, removing InfoWars pages by claiming he's being targeted in a Nazi-style censorship campaign, when in reality, the content is being taken down because it violates the terms of rules incorporated by those sites. Ironically, InfoWars' own website has a list of terms and conditions that one must agree to if they wish to use the website, which states, it is not censorship if you violate the rules and your post is deleted. Apple, Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, and a number of other social media giants have opted to drop Jones and InfoWars content from their sites, which according to Jones is a violation of his right to free speech, as he can no longer post on those platforms. Of course, the obvious rebuttal to Jones and his ilk is private companies, unlike the government, are not required to allow you to use their space to broadcast your ideas, which then brings us right over here to their terms of service page. And I don't just want to clip this out of context. I don't want to clip that particular passage out of context. I want to show it to you in the full, broad context of just exactly what is InfoWars terms of service, what they allow, what they don't allow, and their comment Well, when you might have an issue if you've been banned from InfoWars. Now, it says here that by using InfoWars.com, you agree to the following when making a comment. You will stay on topic. You will not spam. Spam is flooding the internet with unnecessary or out-of-topic comments. If you've watched Alex Jones recently, holy hell, he spams his own show. You will not include links to websites and videos not associated with the topic. You will not post the same comment multiple times on the same different articles. You will not solicit anyone to buy or sell products or services or to make donations of any kind. You will not include link to products in your status updates, comments, articles, or groups. You will not post anything libelous, defamatory, harmful, threatening, harassing, or abusive, invasive of another's privacy, hateful, racially or ethnically objectionable, or otherwise illegal. You will not make threats to other users or people associated with the site. If you violate these rules, your comment and or your username will in fact be deleted. Now that is from the exact terms of service on InfoWars.com. That is basically cookie cutter with a lot of the other stuff that happens. All right, this is how it goes. This is basically a general terms of service. So Alex Jones, by having these terms of service, by making sure that it's there so people know not to violate it, essentially means that he is okay with him being taken down for violating other private companies' terms of service. Now, there is going to be a pushback argument on this that says, well, who's to say what is right or what is wrong or what's allowed and what isn't? And ultimately, it boils down to one of two solutions. It really does. Either you have to allow private companies to continue operating the way that they see fit, or two, you have to ask that the government comes in and regulates these companies and basically forces them to abide by public, by utility regulations, and therefore they have to protect free speech. That's basically what it boils down to. And it's really funny because now we're seeing this conversation on the right. We're seeing some people come out and want more government oversight on these particular situations. It's a weird place to be. It really is. But I do want to go back to the Mediaite article because I do focus on another bit from the particular TOS that I find to be interesting. It says here, you will not post anything libelous, defamatory, harmful, threatening, harassing, abusive, invasive of another's privacy, hateful, racially or ethnically objectionable, or otherwise illegal. You will not make these threats to other users or people not associated with the site. If you violate these rules, your posts and or username will be deleted. Remember, and this is what I want you guys to pay attention to here, you are a guest here. It is not censorship if you violate the rules and your post is deleted. All civilizations have rules. If you violate them, you can expect to be ostracized from the tribe. Wouldn't that exact same argument then be applied to how people in Silicon Valley have been responding to Alex Jones? Now, I'm pointing this out as a devil's advocate approach. I don't think Jones should have been pulled down. I'm merely pointing out the fact that his own website that is owned and operated by him states this exact terms of service for violation of rules on the site. Again, there is that question of what exactly constitutes that particular rule set or who's going to enforce it. But live by the sword, die by the sword, considering that we're talking about private companies here. It's a really tough situation because what are you going to do? What exactly are you going to do at this point? Jones has repeatedly broken terms of services from websites in terms about the conversation, the type of content that they push. Facebook, for example, unpublished 4 of his pages and banned him for 30 days because he kept posting certain things and trying to circumvent things. YouTube pulled him because of that. iTunes pulled 4 specific podcasts that they deemed to contain speech that they didn't like. And again, I'm not all for that, but see, the way that iTunes tends to work out is you have a server, you host your own audio, that goes out to iTunes. iTunes then aggregates sometimes to other platforms like Stitcher or you use your RSS feed and it will go out to different platforms. It's not like one specific group controls all the podcasting. There's a lot there to get into. But when we look at the situation, it really does bring up the questions about where the future of this type of content is going to go. Jones himself is not being censored by the government, which is true. Jones himself can continue posting on InfoWars, which if he owns the servers, then he's going to be able to do indefinitely. And he's not going to be, he's not being run off of Twitter because Jack Dorsey said that they did nothing wrong, and that's good. He can still broadcast through Periscope, so that's also fine. And so he's not really being censored in the way that a lot of people are trying to argue it. What he's being busted for essentially are violating terms of services run by these private companies, terms of services that he ultimately shares the same opinion as on his private website. It's just, this is more of a food for thought scenario rather than trying to actually sit there and say that, that it needs to be one way or another. Because when we start talking about this issue, we do need to look at all the factors. And Jones having this terms of service on a site, which I find to be very ironic, considering that it's like, don't say libelous things. Yet he's out there saying that, like, you know, Robert Mueller is a pedophile supporter, or that he rapes kids, or that Obama sleeps with 10 dudes a day, right? So clearly he doesn't live by his own standards, but he wants to hold you to a different one. Doesn't that sound a lot like social justice warriors? Doesn't that sound a lot like the left? Doesn't it really kind of break it all down that the extremes on either side are generally full of shit? Again, this is something to consider as we move forward in the situation, and we look to the future of how to handle it. I think Jones should be allowed to come back. I do. I think once he gets past his 90-day streaming ban on YouTube, let him come on back. Don't tell him, don't violate any more of the policies. You know, have your opinion. But he's been going more and more and more unhinged as time goes on. And this whole situation validates him because it kind of proves his globalist plot right. Right. And he's allowed to, then he can act as a martyr, and he's been pushing for more people to buy his soy supplements and his, perennial wipes and everything else. So Jones will ultimately be just fine, but it does raise a lot of questions in regard to, is he a hypocrite? And I think he is. I think he's beating his chest, and he's rattling his saber, and he's getting all upset when he holds the exact same views as the companies who then used their own terms of service against him.